So how you feeling about today's episode?
I think it'll be good.
I think so too. I mean, a lot of people like shooters a lot, so
Yeah, it is that time of year.
God, I love coffee.
Oh yeah, tasty in the morning.
All right, into the studio. Hey, Prots, go.
Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning. Are you ready to film another great episode of Nerdstrodamus?
Always, sir.
Always. Let's get in here to the studio and get ourselves situated. The sea of green in the morning.
It's looking good already.
Oh yes.
Indeed.
Oh yes. And there's the mics and everything. Bag.
All right, gentlemen. Are we ready?
I think we're ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Nerdstrodamus. Once again, I'm Dr. Pants.
I'm Lambo.
And you guys better break out your BFGs because we're talking about shooters today.
The big friendly giant.
No, your big, funky gun.
Woo!
Hashtag funky. Anyway, it's that time of the year. It's that fall season before the big holiday season when all the big name games come out. And of course, we've got a plethora of FPS games coming out. Things like Call of Duty, Titanfall 2, Battlefield 1.
Little Jimmy needs his Christmas presents.
He does. So which one should you get? Well, we're going to talk about that. Kinda. We're going to put it up against our own standard. We'll get to that, though. The first thing we want to talk about is first-person shooters nowadays are a lot different than what they used to be. I mean, back in the day, they were a much more single-player experience, where now they're multiplayer.
Indeed. It was the PC generation, of course, that made first-person shooters be a multiplayer experience.
Right.
You know?
But, of course, first-person shooters even started on the PC, and they weren't multiplayer experiences to begin with. You had games back in the 70s and 80s like Maze and Maze Wars and all these things that weren't really like shooters, but they were first-person games. But the first big one was, of course, Wolfenstein 3D, which, by the way, you can play for free online if you just go to their website. And
Mecha Hitler.
And there's Mecha Hitler. It's awesome. But you went from that to Doom and other like big single-player experiences like Hexen.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, remember Hexen?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. It's just like, magic missile. You can do all the like. It's just all of your LARPing fantasies come true. That's like.
Oh no, I would argue not. I played it recently, like in the past.
Oh,
month
I'm
or
sure
two.
that one doesn't hold up.
Oh no, it's so bad. But then we moved on to like the mid to late '90s, where we started getting things like GoldenEye.
Yeah. Well, and Quake and stuff like that. I mean, you can't deny.
No, you can't deny Quake,
Yes.
Unreal Tournament. Things like that. We just bring up GoldenEye because, number one, it's like the holy grail of shooters for most people.
And especially console shooters, Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the first one to really move it over onto that platform.
And of course, we had games like Turok.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And then we got to the the early to mid 2000s, and that's when the online scene started to hit, when we started to get Call of Duty and Battlefield. And Medal of Honor was still a thing and still relevant.
Oh, Medal of Honor.
Medal of
we
Honor.
miss you.
We do.
Come back, but in a, better version than you
Slightly
did.
better way.
Yeah.
But so shooters have gone from being like a complete single player experience like Wolfenstein 3D, a little more arcadey and actiony, to being now this, well, they're still actiony.
Yeah.
But it's almost completely multiplayer driven, and it's online. And is that a bad thing? No. But first person shooters have come a long way.
Yeah, and honestly, more games than ever are first person in general. And it's probably helpful for the onset of VR coming out here. And just in general, puts you in the driver's seat of a game. You know? So it is kind of fun. It is interesting. But we're going to take a look at the things that we think make the best first-person shooters.
So we're going to take the big 5 shooters of this year, which are Overwatch, Titanfall 2, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Battlefield 1, and we're going to bring up Destiny because Destiny got a big update this year, and we think it's still relevant. Also, we kind of like it. That being said, we're going to be rating these games against our favorite first-person shooter of all time.
Perfect Dark. Now, hold on. I know what you're going to say. Come on, this game's like a million years old. Who plays it anymore? It's archaic. It plays weird. It's it was originally for the Nintendo 64. Are the graphics even good still? But guess what? It's the best first-person shooter ever.
We're going to start with the one that came out earlier this year. We're going to start with Overwatch. So, I think I put this on my top 5 games of 2016.
Yeah, and you never even got it.
No, I played the beta.
Yeah, I know.
Played the beta. You know what my problem was?
Huh.
That it was only multiplayer.
Yeah, I know, right? So if we talk about first the single player, does it pass the test?
It does not stack up to Perfect Dark because there is no character-driven single-player mode.
No.
It is only a multiplayer shooter. Now, does that take away from it? In this day and age, as a game, I don't think so because everybody's pretty much playing shooters online. But
You play Overwatch for the multiplayer and for the online experiences, of course. And is it amazing? Yes. So,
but it does take away from the kind of complete package of it. So we're going to say no to single player.
okay, what about multiplayer?
Yes!
Indeed, there's so much fun in this game. I mean, just the amount of joy when you play the game. I usually play as Widowmaker. It's sorry out there if you hate Widowmaker. My arch enemy is Hanzo. So anybody playing Hanzo out there, like you're usually at the end of my sights, and you usually shoot me before I can get a shot off. Just the way it is.
I did play the beta for Overwatch, and I greatly enjoyed playing Reinhardt and Bastion, and I just gotta say, like, the maps and everything were awesome,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the different characters, like their weapons and abilities were great. Like, it was really diverse, and I liked it. But that's what the game was made to be.
Yeah.
It was made to be a multiplayer game, and against Perfect Dark, I think we're gonna give this a point in the multiplayer column.
Lastly, customization.
No.
No, sorry.
Because-
sorry, Overwatch.
Because, yeah, while every character is different, you can develop your own playstyle based on that character. Once you pick a character, the only thing you can really customize is what you look like.
Yeah,
There's-
which is very limited. Now, this is going to go for a lot of the games that we're going to talk about, but this is in the interest of making multiplayer matchmaking easy and simple, right?
Yeah.
That, like, if you have fewer options and you're basically thrown into like a playlist or a quick play mode, you go in there just to kind of get into the game and get fighting.
And it allows you to really get to know, like, your favorite character and really develop your playstyle without hindering you on, like, well, should I go with this gun or this grenade or this grenade?
You just have your character.
So it's not a bad thing in Overwatch that the customization isn't there. But once again, we're rating this against a game that we feel is like the most complete package ever. And Overwatch is a good game. It's a lot of fun, and we really enjoyed playing it. But
But on the Perfect Dark scale, it only gets a 1 out of 3.
moving on then, we're going to talk about these two games kind of together. And that's Titanfall 2 and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
And then, of course, there's a reason. I mean, on the surface, they're both futuristic shooters and all that kind of good stuff. There are definitely differences. We're not going to say they're the same game. We're not that
No.
short-sighted.
But the other funny thing is Call of Duty Infinite Warfare was, of course, designed by Infinity Ward. And the people who make Titanfall 2, Respawn, are made up of former members of Infinity Ward. And both of these games are very, very similar. So we're going to talk about them kind of together. There are differences, but
Yeah. Oh, no. The differences are definitely there. It's just that we're looking at them based on that they kind of fit in a similar space when we're talking about the Perfect Dark scale.
and they actually fall in the same point range here.
yeah. Is
Oh,
it
okay.
deep? And is it like, do you have the ability to kind
To
of make
lose the-
decisions?
And
Yeah.
lose the game without dying.
Yeah. Essentially, you're on a track and you're heading in one direction, and you're hitting checkpoint after checkpoint. And while the games have gotten very dynamic and very cool and story driven, it's not a player driven experience.
No,
It's not about you. Okay. It's not. It's about your character, not you.
Unfortunately, a lot of first-person shooter games have relegated the single-player mode to being basically the tutorial for the multiplayer, where they throw every weapon at you, they throw every different loadout at you so you can try them out. That being said, there's nothing wrong with the single players in these games. Against our Perfect Dark scale, though, both Call of Duty and Titanfall get a 0 in the single-player mode.
Okay. What about the multiplayer mode?
The multiplayer mode, in terms of the weapons and the levels, totally.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. But this is where those games shine. Both of them, there's all kinds of cool different levels and cool different weapons and a whole bunch of different modes to play.
Things to unlock. The unlocks are like really, really exciting. And so as you kind of make your way through both games, leveling up, there's so much good stuff.
Yeah, it's there's a lot there. Plus, there's the prestige in Call of Duty, and there's there's the same thing in Titanfall 2, and I can't remember what it is. Where after you get a weapon so high, you can kind of like reset it down to 0 and unlock more stuff, but I can't remember what it is.
Interesting.
If you remember, post it in the comments below because we don't remember. That being said, against our Perfect Dark scale, both Call of Duty Infinite Warfare and Titanfall 2 get a point in the multiplayer column.
Now, lastly, customization. And this is where we probably disagreed the most.
Yes.
If you want to have a conversation about it. Now, when I talk about customization in Perfect Dark, I'm talking about the game mode. I'm talking about what you can do and what you can create as a player.
Both Titanfall 2 and Call of Duty give you different loadouts that you can pick, and then from there customize them to specific weapons, specific sidearms, specific grenades, specific perks, colors, weapon paint jobs, like all this stuff. There is a lot of customization there. But the problem comes down to that the multiplayer modes itself aren't customizable. You pick a mode and then it's that level, that kill count, and that's it. Whereas Perfect Dark, like, you pick the level, you could set the kill count. The one thing I'm going to argue with this is we're comparing here the multiplayer of Perfect Dark to the multiplayer of these games. Their multiplayer is only online, whereas Perfect Dark's multiplayer was typically offline or it was private.
Yeah, and it was only you and your friends kind of messing around, and you had, of course, the ability to, if I wanted to play a really, really dumb game that was super difficult or super silly. Remember N-bombs and throwing knives in the car park?
Yeah.
That's it. It was just the worst 2 hours of our lives, but it was amazing.
Right. So basically what I think this comes down to is we can't quite agree on the customization between Call of Duty and Titanfall versus Perfect Dark. So we're going to give it sure, which means we're going to throw a half point into the customization column. So that gives Call of Duty and Titanfall both a 1.5 out of 3 versus our Perfect Dark scale.
Yeah, so far Overwatch 1 out of 3, Titanfall and Call of Duty 1.5. So it's actually one up from Overwatch.
Yeah, so it's
not saying that they're more fun, we're just saying on the Perfect Dark scale. Just remember, it's our own scale.
We're rating these as not perfect packages, but complete packages. I should have said perfect packages. It's Perfect Dark.
Indeed.
I missed that joke.
Okay. Our next game on the list, of course, is probably the outside of Call of Duty, one of the more interesting and controversial titles on the list because of the change in play style, is Battlefield 1.
So Battlefield 1, number one, I hate the naming. I kind of understand why they did it, but I hate when it's a game later in the series and they give it a 1 in front of it. But they went back to World War I, an era that is not explored very much. So let's talk about this. So let's go right to the single player. Is the single player in Battlefield 1 a story or a character-driven experience?
It's a player-driven experience.
That's what I meant.
Yeah. And yes, it is actually. You have complete option right from the beginning of the game to pick which character you'd like to play as, and you get to play through their story. And the game is like oddly personal. So you kind of play through these. They give you these people's names and their birth and death dates, and you play through maybe what could be their last moments. I actually didn't look up and see whether any of them were real. I kind of feel bad. But you play through these people's lives. And I say people because I don't even want to call them characters because it kind of feels pretty real. The single-player levels are also kind of nice and open, just like the online battles themselves. And it's pretty awesome.
Cool.
Indeed.
Now, as far as objectives go, are there different objectives for each mission?
Yeah.
So it's not just point A to point B?
Well, a lot of times it is, but there's many ways to get from point A to point B, which I think makes it a little more player-driven than some of the others.
Okay.
That there's multiple kind of like conduits to get there. And a lot of the characters are based around a particular specialty, like, some are pilots, some are tank pilots and stuff like that.
Okay.
And it makes it fun.
So overall, the single player in Battlefield 1 against our Perfect Dark scale, we're going to give it a yes, which gives it a point in the single player column. So when it comes to multiplayer, Battlefield shines in multiplayer. There's nothing quite like it. Now, people will argue that, you're either a COD fan or a Battlefield fan. I'd argue they're different.
Yeah, and it's especially if it depends on what kind of warfare you'd like. If you want more close quarters, twitchy, shooter in the face kind of thing,
then you go Call of Duty or Titanfall. But if you want something a little more
epic, grandiose, long term, most of my battles in Battlefield 1 have been a half hour or longer.
And I feel Battlefield's a much more strategic kind of game, which is awesome. I've loved playing Battlefield in the past, and I really enjoyed Battlefield 1's multiplayer. But if we stack it up against the Perfect Dark scale, it kind of misses the mark. Yeah. And unfortunately, it's a product of what the game is. By being a World War I shooter, it's the weapons. Like, all the weapons are World War I based, and
while it adds an awesome character to the game and really kind of like, I think gives it some good character, I just don't know if
it's diverse enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, again, we understand it's a World War I game, and we're not trying to slight it because of that, because bravo to them for taking like the chance, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, the game is
fun.
amazing.
It's awesome, but it just doesn't stack up in terms of like diversity and everything.
Yeah, I play the game for my experiences in it and not for like to further my character. Honestly, it's a lot. I think it's a lot more difficult in this one to kind of level up and get new stuff.
Yeah.
I've played a lot of matches and I haven't unlocked half the stuff I did probably in the same amount of time in 3 or 4. So or Hardline and yeah.
So the multiplayer is really, really cool, but unfortunately stacked up against the Perfect Dark Scale in terms of diversity and everything, we're not going to give it any points here. We're going to say no.
And the same thing kind of goes for customization then because of that.
I mean, yeah, you can pick a different class and you can kind of customize yourself a little bit, but it's not as customizable as the others. And it's nowhere near Perfect Dark.
One thing I will give it, though, is it is much more about your skill versus other people's skill in the game. And the environments and stuff this time are so much more kind of suited to the time period. You're in a lot more like kind of big slanty hills and stuff like that, and it really gives a cool, different sort of atmosphere to the game.
Right. So customization-wise, we're just going to give it a 0.
Yeah,
There's a no there. So unfortunately, stacked up against the Perfect Dark Scale, Battlefield 1 gets a 1 out of 3. Again, we're not making a comment about how good or bad the game is. We're just stacking it up to our favorite and how it compares. And unfortunately, Battlefield 1, an awesome game, isn't quite the complete package I want it to be. At least.
Now,
lastly. So we're going to talk about Destiny. A game that is a little controversial because there are people out there who absolutely hate it, think it was a terrible, terrible thing, and other people who are obsessed with it. We're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Because we're not obsessed.
And we don't quite have the time to put in like some other people do. We play online with a lot of friends, and like they're better than us.
Oh, they're much better than us.
They have higher light scores.
Oh, yeah. We tried to do the newest raid last night, and didn't go well. That being said, how does it stack up? Single player mode.
Now, this is where a lot of we actually probably disagreed to start, but I'm going to ultimately agree with you.
Okay.
Is the single player mode a player-driven experience?
No. And the reason is number one, I would argue the missions are kind of It's get here. It's go from here to here. Typically kill a boss or something, be done with it. But the big thing is the single player mode's not really there because Destiny is an MMO.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that are part of the story, a part of the single player experience, you can't do by yourself.
Right. You're actually completely pretty much locked out of raids because the raids usually have almost a barrier to entry at the beginning of the raid. That if you don't have help, you're not going to make it through.
That being said, there are some amazing people out there who have done a couple of the raids by themselves. And holy crap, dudes. Good for you.
Y'all crazy.
We can't do it. But nonetheless, for the regular person, a lot of that stuff is not single player based. So Destiny, in terms of single player in the Perfect Dark Scale, gets a 0. No points there. Multiplayer.
We're talking about specifically the Crucible mode.
We're talking about the Crucible mode because, of course, all the other ones we were talking about, the PvP of it. So we argued a little on this. Because it comes down to the variety of weapons, the diversity and everything, and I argued that there is a plethora of diversity in that game.
And I argued that you were kind of pigeonholed into the idea that, there are a best set of weapons, there are a best set of armors, and you're kind of forced down that path.
I agree a little bit that there are definitely top-tier armors and weapons, but number one, there's multiple sets of armor and weapons that are good depending on your playstyle. Like there's a top-tier hand cannon, top-tier scout rifle, all that stuff. But keep in mind that Destiny has added in this thing where you can junk higher-powered weapons to power up lower-powered weapons so they match. So I argue that if you find a weapon you really, really like and you get a bunch of higher-tiered stuff, you can junk them if you want to keep up that lower tier weapon because you like it so much. So it kind of makes everything on an even playing field a little bit.
Yeah.
That being said, like you go in with your own weapons, the loadouts are, I want to argue, more customizable than other games.
Probably.
There's more options.
Yeah, and I think you become more intimately involved with all of them because you have to kind of like forge them throughout the game.
Yeah.
And a particular character, even if you pick a particular class, there's probably, in terms of the way it actually makes you play, probably hundreds of different ways to customize that character. So I guess I have to agree with you.
So in terms of diversity in the multiplayer, we're actually going to give Destiny a yes, which gives it a point in the multiplayer column. And then customization.
We also argued about this one.
We did argue about this.
And
one.
part of it has to do with that last one, but the other part of it had to do with the multiplayer.
But now, see, this is the argument I'm going to make, because all the other ones, we can't really customize the multiplayer because there's no, like, private matches that you can customize, but Destiny actually does have it. They recently added it with the Rise of Iron expansion. You can make private matches for you and all your friends where you customize everything about it. The map, the game type, the score, everything.
Now, it's not quite as robust as, like, a Halo 3 or something like that, but it was enough to move me in the direction of giving this one a yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, the regular multiplayer, the Crucible, as far as customization, you go in with your own customizable character. I mean, weapons, individual armor pieces, classes, paint jobs, everything. Your own taunts. Like, your character's fully customizable. And then it added in the private match mode where you can design the game. And they really did add a lot of customization into this. So for customization, Destiny gets a yes.
Which actually gives it the highest score out of all the games we've looked at today, and the score is Overwatch.
1 out of 3. Titanfall and Call of Duty Infinite Warfare.
1.5 out of 3.
Battlefield 1.
Is only 1.
And lastly, Destiny gets
a 2.
Out
Just
of 3.
pretty good. Pretty good on the Perfect Dark scale.
Yes. Now, again, we want to reiterate. All of these games are amazing.
And they're all worth playing. We're just trying to help you to figure out if these kind of games are the game for you. So that's how the top shooters of 2016 stack up against our favorite, a 17-year-old game.
Yes, a 17-year-old game. Again, they're all really good. And tell us in the bottom in the comments of the games we talked about, Overwatch, Titanfall 2, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, Battlefield 1, Destiny. Tell us which one your favorite is, because we've played them all, and we love them all. They're all amazing. Lambo, of the 5, which one's your favorite?
It's hard to say. I'd actually say I'm just in terms of like, because I'm a little bit more just kind of like strategy. It's either between Battlefield 1 and Overwatch, honestly.
And
both awesome.
And while I'll agree, they're both awesome, I have not had a game that I go back to as often as Titanfall 2. I love the multiplayer. Maybe it's the fact that it's kind of like playing Halo. Maybe it's the fact that I get to be Spider-Man. Or maybe it's the fact that they're giant robots. That's all I need. Giant robots. But nonetheless, again, comment below what your favorite is and why. Tell us why you love any of these games. They're all really good and totally worth playing.
Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe,
share.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, tell your family, tell random people on the street about the joy that is Nerdstrodamus. And with that, I'm Dr. Pants.
I'm Lambo.
See you next time.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you liked what you see, click subscribe. Also, check the links below for our Twitter, our blog, and our Facebook page. Check back often, we'll be posting new videos weekly.